And welcome to a Friday edition of the NBA Betting Show. My name is Michael Lockie. I am joined today by Matt Meiselman. Mike G is going to be traveling and might be checking in with us remotely. But Matt, how's your morning going?
Pretty good after Utah finally won a game. That's biggest thing for me right now is the Jazz are still alive for the playoffs. So I'm feeling pretty good. We don't have a lot of value today, but we'll start with yesterday.
And sliding for a bit, and
Yeah.
it's certainly going to be not an easy season for them as we had hoped.
No.
But they've certainly overperformed. We like the spot we're in. There was a game yesterday that we talked a lot about on the show, Clippers Nuggets, and the news didn't exactly break the way we expected. However, any of those early Nuggets bets covered in the first 30 seconds of the game or so and never looked back. So how did it play out for you? Any regrets along the way? Any changes to your opinions in hindsight? What were your thoughts on yesterday?
I don't think I have any regrets. I did hedge some of my bet, and I think it was just the right move given where the numbers were, because when we were getting close to game time, we had a projected line at 6.5, and then John Wall got ruled out, and we haven't talked about this too much, but John Wall makes the Clippers worse. And right. I guess they decided that because Kawhi and George were both healthy, they would save John Wall for today's game. And I don't know why the Clippers think that John Wall helps them win, but clearly they do. So I guess they figured there's a chance we're going to have to sit Kawhi or George or both on Friday. Now that they're both in Thursday, let's save Wall for Friday. And because of that, our projected line for the game was only 5.5. I had a -4.5 and a -6, and then I basically bet enough to hedge the -6. At -5, this is a problem that if you bet what we're doing or you just bet some similar system, this is a problem that's going to arise all the time where people want to hedge and they want to know how much of the bet they should hedge or when to do it or if they should at all. And this game is a good illustration of just how there isn't a right answer for this. This was one of those examples where we sort of recommended betting early because worst case you can hedge, but hedging is not really a plus EV strategy in general. You just had -5, right?
You're going to lose about 5% most of the time when you hedge, right? Because you're paying 10% on one side and you win the other side of the bet. So
yeah,
I recognize hedging is quite, it can be quite negative, but if the first bet is made with a range of outcomes in mind, right? And I'm just going to repeat what we mention all the time, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a range of outcomes. If we think a guy like Paul George, if it's only 20% chance he sits. Now, yesterday we thought it was much larger, but that 20% changes the win percentage. Let's say the game was Nuggets -5 roughly at the time. We thought the line would move to George is going to be worth 3.5 points, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't have it fully memorized what win percentage 3.5 points is worth, but it's not a small amount of
No. It's like a 60% win probability. Yeah. If you beat the line by 3.5 points every time, you're going to win about 60% of your bets.
Right. So, to me, the value is there, the plus EV was there, and maybe this was wrong on my part, but I decided not to hedge off yesterday, and I don't have a great reason for it other than I had -5. You said it was 5.5. Maybe I should have gone smaller, but I decided not to, and there wasn't a good reason for it, if I'm being honest. And that's just the accepted risk I took based on the circumstance.
Yeah.
So other times I've been more aggressive to hedge out. I did hedge out of a Raptors bet when they played the Bucks recently. I only opened a 1-point middle there, but obviously the most desirable situation is when you can open a couple points of a middle, because then being able to win both bets is tremendous upside. But that's only if it makes sense for each individual bet, though. I do mention that from time to time, but I want to be crystal clear. I only advocate doing that when you make the first bet with these range of outcomes in mind, and then you have new information or the information changes and you think the range of outcomes are now in a new scenario. So then you're making a new set of bets, and sometimes that is going to be directly contradictory to each other, but you have to, my poker term is you got to play the hand you're dealt, right? And sometimes when information changes, you have to make the new best decision.
Yeah, so I think we can stick on this topic for just a second because I'm going to pivot quickly over to the value tab here, and there's not much happening right now. Yeah. It's a very white screen over here. So we'll come back to this for sure. Like, we have some bet recommendations, but to stay with this hedging idea, in the long run, one point is the long run is going to happen much quicker for us. Like, long run is not just a measure of time, it's a measure of betting volume. And we are betting a lot of bets on a given day. Like, we're not emptying our wallets to make a lot of these bets. Like, we're doing 1 unit and 2 unit bets, but we're doing a ton of them. Like, a typical NBA night for me might have 6 bets on average, and then if there are props or other things, that's on top of that. So the volume is high. So the long run happens fairly quickly. In the long run, the only thing you care about is maximizing expected value for the most part. But there's one other variable, and that other variable is not losing your bankroll. So you basically want, the equation is, how much expected value can I get with the lowest risk of going broke? Like,
risk of ruin's a fascinating topic in conversation and could probably have its own show.
Yeah, so I'm going to do it like a little version of it here, and we can kind of ping back and forth on this, and then we can move on to other games. But the reason to hedge is to sacrifice EV in order to lower risk of ruin. That's basically what you're doing. The only other reason that hedging is ever a thing is psychological reasons. Like, that's it. Like, if you make a negative EV bet, there are only 2 reasons to do that purposefully. To make a bet that you know is bad on purpose. One is risk of ruin, because you have so much at stake on something, you want to backtrack a bit. So that's one reason. The other reason is bias. Like, it's just it's psychology. And that is the reason most people hedge. So I want to be careful to not recommend hedging for that reason alone. But at the same time, like, I'm a little cautious because people who aren't me, I just assume that other people have more fragile psyche than I do. And it's not that I think I'm special or anything. It's that I've been doing this longer. And I've built up, like, a tolerance. And I'm a bit numb to, like... There are nights where I've made a 3-unit bet on something that ends up just being... It wasn't even a bet that we projected well. I basically bet it by accident. And when that bet loses, it doesn't feel very good. But I've had that happen enough times where I'm kind of used to it. For other people, that feels really, really stupid. So I'm trying to help those people.
I'm pretty unique in that sense that I've played, like, very high stakes poker for most of my adult life. And the only way to be reasonable at that is to eventually become so numb to the financial aspect that I'm able to play the game on top of the game. And that certainly has allowed me to learn a lot from you, I think, in ways that maybe not every, beginning, player can do. So this is all just specific knowledge you've built up in your field. I happen to have more specific knowledge in an overlapping field that I'm trying to carry over some stuff into.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Poker is certainly, like, I don't know how you do it, honestly, because there's so much more subjectivity in good poker play that, like, it's hard to convince yourself you made the right move sometimes.
There's more data points than you realize.
Okay, fair enough. I haven't spent a ton of time on poker tables.
Just like anything.
Okay. Well, yeah, the more objectivity there is in something, the easier it is to sleep at night, I guess, because you can actually know if you made the right move or not. So all of this is to say, like, well, to come back to the specific game, at tip-off, we had... The line was 5, and the projected line was 5.5. Like, hedging -5 back with +5. The second bet there is a negative EV bet. And I hedged at +6, which was right when George got announced he was going to be in. Even that is, like, right on the fringe of negative EV territory. Because I know we're going on a little bit of a tangent here today, but... The reason that we draw a threshold of, like, we don't bet anything with less than 1.5 points of edge, like, The line is -5. We're projecting 6.5. Why is that only barely positive? Or like, why wouldn't we bet a -5 when we're projecting 5.5? It's because we have to overcome the VIG. So we need at minimum like a 1 point differential just to overcome that -110 that is baked into most lines.
Yeah, you can't. You have to look for a, let's call it a 52 or 53% win percentage bet, not a 49.9% win percentage bet, right?
Right, or even 50. If you win 51% of your spread bets, you lose money.
Right.
So there's that element, and then there's also the element of our projections are not perfect. As much as I would like them to be, there is a lot of subjectivity in here, so we're going to give ourselves a little bit higher of a margin just to account for the fact that we're not perfect.
Yeah, I'll give Mike G a lot of credit for this. In the models that he's built that we've utilized, like, we always leave ourselves a certain amount of space where it's like, look, we could be just totally wrong here, right? So, let's just factor in some amount of, like, bad projections, or maybe we're double counting something somewhere and we don't realize it. And, like, let's just give ourselves an amount of room for error that says, look, no matter what, we think this is the cream of the crop.
Yeah. So what we're doing here for spread betting is, I think 1 point edge is probably enough. If the model was absolutely perfect, we would bet everything above a 1.0. And then I'm allowing another 0.5 point margin there just for errors, like for things that are imperfect in the model. So that's why I'm not even looking at bets where we have less than 1.5 points of value. So that means, though, if you hedge at +6 when the projected line is 5.5, that is a negative EV hedge. And it may be worth doing negative EV hedges if your risk of ruin is high enough. Like, if you're just starting and maybe, I mean, this is a unit sizing conversation too a little bit, but like, if losing 10 consecutive bets would wipe you out to the point where you're not going to bet anymore, hedging is more important for you, because you're basically like, your risk of ruin is so high and you need to hedge more often. I think the solution for that person would be to lower your unit size, but whatever, like, not everyone wants to do that. Some people want to try to like maximize early, and they're okay, not like their betting bankroll goes to 0 and then they just stop betting. Some people are okay with that. But hedging, the best hedge is one that is individually its own plus EV bet. So like, for example, with last night, let's say that there was so much speculation about Paul George getting ruled out that the spread had gone up to like 8. A +8 bet on the Clippers at that point, forget the score, I know we have it on screen here, they lost by 30, but a +8 bet on the Clippers independently would have been a plus EV bet. And then that, like, whatever, the -5 you bet earlier is already in the past. This is, like, cashing out is a different thing, but assuming we're just talking about hedging, like, you don't really want to hedge most of the time unless the second bet is also a plus EV bet, because in the long run, you'll just have built up so many negative EV bets if you do too much hedging that it's just taking away from how much money you would have made. So like with the Raptors example, with Giannis, with the Nuggets example last night, if you hedged both of those, one of them worked out, one of them didn't, and you cost yourself like 1/10 of a unit from VIG, where if you didn't hedge either game, it's the same 1-1. And you would have saved the VIG, because you would 0 win 0 loss is better than 1 win and 1 loss because of the VIG. So on average, it's better not to hedge, but some people are worried about the vitality of their bankroll enough where hedging makes sense, and that's basically the conversation. So there is no right answer for this.
And flashbacks to Christmas, but trying to stay up.
We all have those. We all have those games that we wish we hedged. I lost 6 units on the Denver-Detroit game where we knew Jokic was going to get upgraded from doubtful, and like, should I have hedged some of that? I mean, no. Like, it was a negative EV bet to hedge later. And in the long run, it's going to cancel out. But in the short run, it can feel very, very annoying. So this is just going to vary person to person. Like, there is no global right answer for this kind of thing.
I agree with all of that. And I do think that was worth exploring. And I appreciate you going down that rabbit hole with me. So
it's better than talking about this game that actually happened, where the 2 top performers on screen here are Moses Brown and Vlatko Konchar. Like, that was not a game that's worth breaking. I
literally didn't even know Vlatko's first name.
Yep. He's the guy who hit that half-court shot versus the Mavericks. He's their half-court shot specialist, and he had 15 and 12.
What a gangster. Okay, yeah. So, that game was The Clippers scored looks like 32 points at halftime. That was quite a performance. That
Yep.
was how many points the Nuggets had in the first quarter. All right.
So the thing that is relevant about what the Clippers did last night and what the Nuggets did is because the game was such a blowout, all the starters played fewer minutes. And the Clippers guys in particular, they sat their entire starting lineup after halftime. So I was telling you a bit of this right before we started, but right when we got the underdog notification at the start of the second half that all of the
What their
backups
starting
were
lineup
starting.
was,
yeah.
yeah.
I went to check. Well, first I tweeted it because I thought it was just a funny thing. And then I went to check what the Clippers-Wolves line was for today's game.
Tomorrow, yeah, for today.
And it was Clippers plus 5.5, which we would have had as a bet. Let me just pull this up. Here we go. Clippers plus 5.5 would have been a bet, assuming Kawhi is in. We have Kawhi projected out right now, but assuming Kawhi is in, our fair line for this game is like 2.5, maybe 2. So I tried to bet the 5.5, and there must have been enough people looking at that the line, which it shifted before I was able to get the bet in. The line is
like
now
2 points, right? Like
the
not
line
a
is
small shift.
Yeah, it fell to 3.5. Now it's 3. So it's not really a bet at those numbers. But it's an interesting thing to look at for today because Kawhi has been sitting back to back. So for the Clippers, like there's some uncertainty as far as if he plays or not. Like he's projected out right now. He could definitely play. He played like 18 minutes last night. I think that's the number. You know, I'll check quickly, but it was less than 20 for sure. Where are we? This isn't showing on screen, right? You don't see. Yeah, okay. Paul George played 14 minutes last night, and Kawhi played 18 minutes. So, unless those guys are injured, there's no reason they can't play tonight.
Yeah.
Kawhi specifically said that he didn't know, but unless George
I'm sure
the
they
hamstring,
didn't expect George
No.
and Kawhi to combine for 31 minutes, right? That's just like that is such a small percentage outcome that like they can't even use that in their pregame models when determining how to structure these back to back. So it's certainly on the table for them all to play today.
Yeah, it's also on the table for neither of them to play. It is possible.
Yeah, no, it's super. I actually wanted to bring that up too. Like, I think even in these scenarios, Paul George is still, I think, should be on rest watch.
Yeah, because he is dealing with the hamstring issue, and he was terrible last night. And who knows?
They shot for 1 for 9 from the floor.
Yeah, Kawhi was 2 for 7, and George was 1 for 9. And Reggie Jackson was 1 for 6. We don't really care about Reggie Jackson though. Like if he sits today, whatever. But it's possible that the reason George was so bad is because his hamstring tightened up on him, and we didn't get an update about him. But there is a chance that he doesn't play tonight. So
yeah, I think ignoring that would be a mistake.
Yeah, so he's really the variable here because right now where the line is, it's set at a midpoint for Kawhi. So Kawhi's projected out, and if Kawhi's out, we have the line at like Minnesota -5, which is like right on the fringe of a bet. If Kawhi is in, though, it'll be like Minnesota -2, which is just on the fringe of a bet the other direction. Right. So if the only person we hear about is Kawhi, the line is set at a place where we're not really betting it either way. Even though Kawhi is worth like 3.5 points, the line is straight right down the market. Yeah, the market isn't giving us an opportunity with Kawhi. So the only way we really have a bet for this game is if the line moves in such a way where it opens up something one way or the other, or both Kawhi and George get ruled out. And if both Kawhi and George got ruled out, we'd have like a 6-point edge here because our projected line would go to like 9.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to list George here. Maybe I'll just write in like George possible rest, but I think most likely they both play. I do. I think most likely both of them play. But there's some percentage outcome where neither plays.
I did not think I would say this going into the start of the game yesterday, but I actually think they could both play here, and I think that was a pretty low percentage chance going into the game yesterday. So
yeah, yesterday's game was certainly an anomaly. Like 14 minutes of Paul George is basically impossible. It requires
how good are
this.
these NBA teams these days? Like how many teams are just putting up these like crazy, like how many 50-point quarters have there been? And like, it's just the efficiency is just unreal.
Even
now.
OKC has been able to do it. They did it against the Celtics.
I almost brought that
crazy.
up, but they got 150 points recently. But I decided not to circle on them.
Yeah, I mean the fact that the Raptors could score 20 points in 3 minutes and still lose, like the season has been weird. It's been a weird season. There's I don't know how anyone guards anyone because the players are just too good offensively. But the Nuggets are also just an elite offense, and their efficiency in the first half was like totally unprecedented. But they are interesting for tonight too, because that is the game where we currently have the largest projected edge.
We started mostly with the Clippers side of it, but as we noted, Denver is playing also on a back-to-back. Cleveland's visiting. I mean, I get that this is a different conference opponent, but this is somewhat of a top tier team on both sides matchup. So
well, Donovan Mitchell is out.
Okay. Did not know that. I see Darius Garland questionable.
Yeah, I just added Jamal Murray here because even though they said Murray said he's going to play, I'm just going to keep him here for now.
Sure.
Because
I think that's very fine.
Things can change.
There's certain players that are always on watch. LeBron, for example. Like I think Murray could be on that list for a little while.
I may remove him in an hour if there's shoot around, but for now I'm going to leave him. So Garland, I thought this was going to be better value than what it looks like because I forgot Garland was coming back. So Mitchell got ruled out for rest yesterday for this game. They've had a couple overtime games and they've played like 3 close games in a row. And I guess we probably should have been ready for this more because I was actually watching Phoenix Cleveland and Mitchell like pretty badly pulled his groin towards the end of the game, and he stayed in, but like it makes sense they would give him a night off. So Mitchell's out. Garland has been out for a few games, but Mitchell being out probably increases the chance that they try to get Garland back on the court. So we have a bit of Denver value anyway, even if Garland plays, but we want to make sure that everyone for Denver is healthy. I don't know, though. I don't know if there's actually any real -5.5 available. That might be gone now.
Okay.
Here we go. All right. This looks like -6 across the board. Yeah, I thought this was going to be a good bet at -7, which is where it was last night when Murray said he was in. But I forgot Garland was going to play. So at -6, it's probably a half unit bet, but it could be a lot higher if Garland's out. So I think what I'm going to do is wait. Like I already bet a bit at -7, which was a mistake, but for now,
I agree that Jamal Murray
should
on this list. Should we also be including any Michael Porter Jr.'s, Aaron Gordon's, any of these guys?
I don't think so because those guys have all been playing back-to-backs, and their minutes were way lower last night too. Those guys were all out of the game by the middle of the third quarter because they were up by 40. So they all basically they didn't really play much yesterday. Yeah, and I do actually have a manual adjustment in here to add back in some travel, like the negative travel adjustment that you get for a back-to-back. I've added a bit of that back in because the workload was so light last night. Like, it's going to be as if Jokic didn't have a game yesterday. It's 2 consecutive home games, and he only played a half, basically.
Right.
I think he played 5 minutes in the second half. So, it's not your typical back-to-back. So all of that is already accounted for. The key thing really here is Murray, who said he's going to play. So maybe it's even a reach to have his name here at all. But Garland is the key variable. So if Garland gets ruled out, we've got north of a 1-unit bet on Denver. That's like our best bet of the day if he's out. But even right now, it's not bad. So I think if you can't wait around today, you can just bet this. And I mean, Garland's probably going to be in if I had to guess, and the line is already pricing that in, which is why it's moved down. But he could be out. So you have a better chance to optimize around this if you wait. But I think betting it now is fine.
I think that's a pretty comprehensive discussion on Cleveland, Denver. I feel pretty complete there. We've gotten through the Clippers-Minnesota game.
Yep.
I think the next biggest value that should be worth looking at is the Chicago 76ers game.
Yep. There's two up here that we should talk about. Yeah, we'll start with that one.
Big Daddy Alex Caruso questionable,
Yeah.
and we know he's got a lot of gravity, as I like to say. So currently showing Philly with 1.8 points of value. Caruso questionable, obviously, he's worth about 2 points today. So what are your thoughts on this spot?
Yeah, I think we definitely can wait here because the market doesn't think Caruso matters that much. And there's
a couple that they do react to. I actually thought Caruso was one that they did respect. Maybe I'm overthinking that.
It'll move, but the line probably closes at 5. I mean, the line could move towards Philly just from sharp betting on it. Like, it may move just from that. So, gotcha. Yeah, like, I think we could see Philly get up to 5 or 5.5 even before we get this news.
Is Embiid out?
Yeah.
Embiid's officially out. Okay.
Yeah, the team ratings are the team rating for Philly is at 3.5. Normally it would be like 7.5.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Embiid's out. But Chicago is just a little bit overvalued in general, and the Sixers without Embiid, I think, are also just a little bit of an undervalued situation because Montrezl Harrell is underrated. Right? Yeah. Like, Embiid is great, but they actually have competent backups. The other thing that has been happening lately is Matisse Thybulle is actually getting minutes.
Yeah, he actually got a pretty solid run last game, and I wasn't necessarily expecting that. So
yeah, and Doc said after the game that he's like, it's like a thing. They're going to keep doing it. And Embiid being out means Thybulle is going to play a little bit more, actually, because they started PJ Tucker at center. They're going smaller, and the Bulls are not a team. Their Bulls are not a team you need size against, really. I mean,
yeah, Vooch is not going to do much on the defensive end, right? He's a mostly offensive player.
Yeah, and I mean, if Vooch has a really big height mismatch, then like he can dominate down low, but none of the players the Sixers would play anyway are that big. Like, Reed and Harrell are both undersized centers, so to put Tucker or Thybulle in instead, they don't even lose that much height.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Tucker has guarded Vooch, and I think it's gone fine. So
okay.
He's quite an interesting chess piece, that PJ Tucker.
Yeah, if he didn't play, it would be great for us because he's bad, and more Thybulle, more Harrell, more Paul Reed, all of that would be better than PJ Tucker. I don't know why they have to play him. He did leave last game briefly. Hopefully he's ruled out. That would be amazing.
That would help.
Yeah.
All right, so and any thoughts on Caruso's odds of in or out?
I never know with him because, and it's kind of a thing for defense-oriented players where...
Yeah, he's a hustle guy. He's on the floor. He's always got something dinged up, right? Like,
he's always dinged up, but also, like, he could play with a broken finger and be fine because he doesn't shoot anyway. Right? Like, his defense is not... As long as the injury doesn't affect his ability to defend, and broken finger is a bit of a...
defensive lineman in football. It's like they can play with club hands and stuff.
Yeah, it's a bit of an exaggeration for basketball, but yeah, that concept does sort of apply. It kind of applies to him. So
I'm all about exaggerating the point.
Yeah, he can play through more injuries than the average guy, but also he gets injured way more than the average guy. So I have no idea if he's going to play, but if he doesn't play... then we have a pretty good Philly bet.
Yep, I agree.
And I don't think you'll have to time it super well either because the market is not going to react too quickly to him. I mean, I'm just going to wait for the...
True. I hope that's true.
I hope it's true also. I don't know if it's true. Oh, good reminder from YouTube. Javonte Green also is questionable, and he is not normally relevant just because he's not playing enough minutes, but there's definitely compounding of both of those guys being out.
Sure.
Like, Green will fill Caruso's role if Caruso is out, but if they're both out, then we get much weaker players. So I don't care about Green unless Caruso's out because Green is projected... where is the... Yeah, Green's projected basically to not play. But Caruso's estimated impact would go up if Green were also out. That's basically what I'm saying. Because Green is the first guy in line to fill Caruso's spot, but if he were also not playing, we're getting more Ayo Dosunmu, who is terrible, and then we're going to get like Dragic and Kobe White, who are fine, but they're worse than Javonte Green. Right. So Caruso's impact could be like 3 if both guys are out. So that's something to watch too. But again, the market is not going to react to him. So we've bet against the Bulls probably every game that Caruso has missed, like in the last 2 years, because the market just doesn't react. The other thing, though, is I don't know if I want to, like, totals are hard. I don't know if I really want to recommend this one, but
where's your head at?
My head is at betting the over if Caruso and also, like, Caruso and Green are only good at defense. Javonte Green is like a mini Alex Caruso. He does the same
And Kobe
thing.
White is the total opposite.
Yeah. He's the exact opposite. Yeah.
Full pace, no defense, all, chucking 30-foot threes, whatever, just doing that thing.
The problem, though, is the total has already gone up 3 points since Caruso got downgraded. So I think we probably...
That sounds like a nothing burger to me.
Yeah, I don't want... And 3 points on the total is not as important as 3 points on the spread, as we've talked about.
No, definitely.
So let's just stay away from that one. I think we just... I think that's enough for this game. We can just go to Portland, Indiana.
Yeah, Portland, Indiana, and then I may want to talk about if we're going to bet the Knicks or not. So so Portland, Indiana, there's no real actionable bet right now if Grant and Payton are in. I'm assuming they're projected in. However, those guys are worth about 2 points apiece. They're playing Indiana. If they both get ruled out, there's going to open up a lot of value on the Indiana side. What are you seeing here?
Yep, it's basically that. So Trailblazers PR. Some people may just have these notifications on from all these things we say all the time. I don't. I turn them off every day because I don't need to get these. I'm getting enough push notifications as it is. So I turn them off every day, and then I try to find the ones that are relevant each morning. So Blazers PR for sure today. At Trailblazers, letter P, letter R, no underscore is the account. They're the not verified account. It was hard to find last time.
Yep.
But we will get the injury report from them before Underdog. So yeah, if Payton and Grant are both ruled out, they're about 2 points each, and there's a bit of a compounding between them also because Portland has no depth. So collectively, these two guys could be worth like 5. I think it's potentially a pretty big impact. Maybe 4.5 or 5, something like that. Like we have no bet here right now.
Both of these guys played their last game, right?
Grant was in the locker room for some of the third. He missed most of the third quarter.
Gotcha. Okay,
but then he came back.
Did he come back? He did come back.
He came back. Payton didn't play.
Oh, okay. Payton hadn't played in a while, right?
He's played one game this year.
He's played once recently. Okay.
Yeah, he came back and then hurt his ankle.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
So we don't know either guy.
I
just want to check: are either of these teams no back-to-backs here? No back-to-backs here. So I think they're going to try to have both of them play. It's just like, are they too hurt to play? We'll find out. So we certainly have a bet here. We'd have like a 4-point edge, maybe even a little higher. It would actually be more like 4.5 or 5 on Indiana if both guys are out. So that would be pretty good. And yeah, that would be like a 1.5 unit bet. That would be a really good one, actually.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty solid one. I agree.
The other way that we get a bet, though, is Grant in, Payton out, because the market thinks Grant matters. It doesn't really think Payton matters. So if we were to get Grant in and Payton out, the line is going to move towards Portland.
Gotcha.
Like we
may get a pick'em or something like that.
I think we would get a pick'em if Grant's in and Payton's out.
And we'd have we would have the fair line at like minus 3.8 roughly.
Yeah. So
that's a pretty sizable bet if it gets to pick'em.
If we get that update where Grant is in but Payton is not in, just wait, and then we're gonna try to grab the Pacers at a lower number.
Yep.
Yeah, because if the reverse happens, like Grant and Payton are worth the same, but the market thinks one guy is way better than the other guy. So if we were to get Grant in and Payton out, okay, no, that's the one that we just broke down. The other way though, where
Payton and Grant out,
where Payton's in and Grant's
out, it might move the Pacers line to like -3 maybe.
Right, and then we don't have a bet. It's gonna move it, like it's gonna take away edge from us. The market's going to react to Grant in a way where they think he's good, and if he's in, it might ignore Payton. That's basically what I'm saying.
Right.
So
I was wondering if it would be enough to open up a Portland.
No, it won't be that, because without Payton, there's basically no way we're ever betting the Blazers unless Gary Payton's playing, because that's the only way to get them undervalued. They're like the most overrated team in the NBA.
Right.
The only way we can potentially get them underrated is if Peyton is playing. So if he's out, yeah, we're never going to have a Blazers bet. Unless, like, a star player on their opponent gets ruled out. That's basically it. So if both guys are out, we definitely have an Indiana bet. And then if we get the Grant in, Peyton out, we may have one later, depending if the line.
It may open up after the fact.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's really, like, I mean, barring, Giannis downgrade, which is always possible, like, I don't think we have much else.
Knicks?
I mean, we're right on the fringe of that being maybe a bet. 1.5 point edge. Like that, I haven't been betting 1.5s.
Fine.
And if I was going to recommend them, I would go like a third of a unit or a quarter of a unit. Like,
I've been doing actually a little more third units here.
I mean, my actual, like, what I've been doing is if it's 1.3 to 1.5, I have to be, like, bored enough to bet them. Those are, like, coin flip EV bets. Like, you can bet them if you need to, but I don't, like, we're talking about such a small edge that it's either a tiny bet or nothing.
Is it worth the 6 clicks you're going to have to make? The answer is usually yes at your unit size, but understood that. Yeah, for most people that's probably not true.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to the Knicks game and like you need a bet for it.
Yeah, obviously that's we're only talking about professional betting here. Betting with intentions of high plus EV opportunities, and that's all we're going to advocate here. So
also, could this line be 4.5 at some point, and then we have a Knicks bet? Sure. Like
that's kind of my larger point of bringing it up. Right, is that it's right on the fringe of a small bet in our mental models. Certainly things could change. Random. If we do get a Toronto, Fred VanVleet Q tag or something out of nowhere, I know that I'm pretty confident to go with the Knicks now.
Yeah, that's a good point. If anyone on Toronto, because we are at this like weird inflection point with the Raptors where maybe they're about to like give up on the season.
No, it's hard to ignore that as a potential, and it feels weird to me. Like we just broke down how they were like a equal team rating to the Bucks, like in a heads up matchup, and like
Drew Holiday wasn't playing that game, so they're equal to the Bucks without Drew. But yes, it is weird.
Sure. I mean, that's still like a crazy thing to say, and then also in the same sentence be saying they're selling off the team potentially. And I agree with everything you've said. I want to be clear about that, but. It's a tough 2 pills to swallow kind of deal.
Yeah. But the Raptors are good. It's just like their record is so bad. Like it's a weird contrast. Like sometimes teams
I thought Nick Nurse was a good coach. I thought like things were like working out quite well there, and that just may not be true.
Yeah. Maybe not. There was I will refer people to this. There's a bunch of clips of Fred VanVleet. From the last day or so, he was on JJ Redick's podcast, which is like one of my favorite things to watch for basketball, talking about his struggles this year. So, yeah, people want to check that out. I have no affiliation.
What did you extrapolate from that? Give me the 5 second.
I hope at some point to have some affiliation with the JJ Redick podcast, but I certainly don't right now. He's basically was hinting at he's been playing hurt.
Right.
And we have been giving negative manual adjustments to Toronto. So maybe that's like why they're underperforming. But it's not much more complicated than that. And I don't have any manual adjustments on this game because I would be giving an equal one to both teams. Like, I mean, I can do this just so people can see how it doesn't make a difference. The Knicks, I'm giving a manual adjustment for the starters playing too many minutes, and the Raptors are getting one probably because the team is underperforming. So, like, if I give them both -1s, it doesn't change anything. But that's basically every game has been like that. Right. So I'll leave that there so people understand, like, I'm not ignoring things. The Knicks are getting a negative bump for everyone overplaying and being tired. And the Raptors are
38-minute averages for the starters or whatever.
And the Raptors are getting one for VanVleet playing hurt. Yeah.
Alrighty, so...
The other thing we just got, by the way, is Kemba Walker just got waived by the Mavs. It was a good run. It was a good run for him. He actually played really well for them. I don't really get it. Too bad. Maybe they're going to
chemistry issues in the locker room. Could be.
Maybe they're going to trade for an actually like a younger guard. I don't know.
Maybe they got plans for what they need from him from somewhere else. I feel like we've only glossed over the Giannis potential rest today. When I see double-digit spreads from a top team against one of the worst teams. I think these are always situations for anybody that needs a day off can take it, right? So, like,
Yeah.
would it be crazy for Brooke Lopez to get a day off today? No.
I think it would be, given what we already know about this game, and I'll show you why in just a second.
Okay, so this is my macro take. Matt can give us the detailed overview.
Where's I'm trying to find my Bucks tweet, and then I'll put it on the screen. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Yeah. So first we had the tweet down here was the first one. I was already looking for this at like 5 p.m. yesterday.
Well, this is why I brought it up too, because I know this was on your mind.
So the first tweet was that the lines I posted when the lines got first put up on whatever sites. It was on like DraftKings and Caesars and a couple.
Do you have any plus 11s? Let me just ask that.
I have a quarter of a unit. I just took a little just in case.
All right, a little nibble. I like a little nibble.
It was 10.5. Yeah, it's not a good bet. Like that's the fair line with everyone playing. I do that all the time. It's not worth mentioning because I make small bets as placeholder bets so I can remind myself that I'm waiting for that. Or just like I want to make sure on the sites that are about to shut, like the sites that take the lines off the board the fastest, I know I'm not going to be able to get bets in at those anyway. So I'll just bet those ones preemptively. And if I get stuck with a slightly negative EV bet, whatever. Like, I thought there was enough of a shot for Giannis to be out with this update that I just put something.
So what changed your mind?
Okay, well, first I was tweeting that we had the opening lines were up at 10.5 and 11. And I thought this rest spot made some sense because it's the third game in 4 nights, and they had just played an overtime game.
Yep.
And now they're playing Charlotte. Like, everything you just said about it being a big spread and a bad team, like the Hornets, I think, have the worst record in the NBA right now, or they're down there. Resting him for this game seemed somewhat reasonable. So, just saying it was something to watch. And also, Drew sat the Toronto game for basically rest. There was no reason to expect him to be out, but with Drew returning, it gives them more wiggle room to sit Giannis. Even though Middleton is out, having Holiday there allows them to sit Giannis and still win the game. So that was what I tweeted. And then at exactly 5:30, which to remind people, 5:30 p.m., 6:30 p.m., teams submit not every team, but we get some formal injury reports. So those 5:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, there usually will be some kind of update around the league. So we got that at, oh no, this was a clarification tweet. Okay. Basically, this was me at 5:20 saying we're going to get it soon at either 5:30 or 6:30. And then at 5:30, we got Middleton ruled out, and Giannis probable, and no one else. Like, they didn't mention anybody. So they told us Giannis is probable. We don't if we had not gotten an update from Milwaukee yesterday, I'd basically be queuing up Hornets bets and Bobby Portis props all day long and waiting all day for Giannis downgrade. Like if we had heard nothing, but because we got him listed probable, like I don't know why they would rest him now. If he was going to be out, they could have said it yesterday. And we've gotten that before. Giannis has been ruled out for rest a day in advance several times already this season. Like that happens. So
I'm just so fascinated by like the GMs or the teams or whatever this like injury process is. There's like on one hand the league wants it to be as clear as possible for all these like gambling endeavors and all this stuff, and on the other hand the teams don't want it to be clear at all because it gives away information to their opponents. So it's this like fascinating dynamic of like this mini poker game that goes on that like the two sides like really have different intentions. And I'm just curious, like there has to be things the league does to incentivize like how do you change these rules without incentives? I would find a struggle there. So
you don't change anything without. I mean, as a general rule for life, you don't change anything without incentives.
Yeah, no, and yes, as somebody that likes to get stuff done, I know that quite well. Mm-hmm. So I just like. Obviously, it's kind of a moot point, but they would need to implement some of these. Like, I would love to know the story of the NBA 50 years from now, looking back at like what decisions were made in some of these crazy times.
Yeah, what we're doing here will not work then because the news is going to just get out too fast. Like, there's no way we can beat injury timing.
You can always front run somebody.
I guess that's true. The books will be smarter
out there.
In 50 years, there either will be smarter books or no books.
Yes,
one or the other. Yeah, so I don't think I don't think Giannis really has much chance of being out tonight because he already got listed probable. That's the key. And if that had not happened, it would have been a way different story.
They didn't have to volunteer that. They did, so I do respect that. Yes, whatever speculation I had is probably reduced. That said, Brook Lopez is still a great guy that could randomly get.
He doesn't sit. Brook Lopez doesn't sit. He plays back-to-backs. He's like he's the Iron Man of the NBA now, which is crazy given his track record. But I have not seen a Brook Lopez rest game in the last. It hasn't happened this season. I don't think he's missed.
I thought we had one where he blasted the over and lost.
Which one was that?
I mean, I could be missing.
Oh, he did miss one game. You're right. He missed a game because they sat everyone else on the other leg of the back-to-back, and then they gave him his own game. It was something like that. Yeah, everyone played, and then Brook. Yeah, okay. But this isn't even a back-to-back.
I agree with all that.
Yeah.
Look, again, I'm speculating.
It's always very important when the team has already submitted an injury report versus if they haven't, because the team has told us something, and there's no reason for them to hold that.
Something would probably need to change for that actually to change, right? It's not necessarily missing information.
Giannis or Lopez or anyone could have a non-COVID illness this morning and not play. That's always possible, but they're not sitting there in the Bucks locker room or at shoot around or whatever today, knowing that one of those guys is out, and they just haven't revealed it yet. If they knew it, they would have said yesterday. But things can change. Right, so I think Giannis is just as likely to sit today as Damian Lillard or, I don't know, Jimmy Butler or anyone else. It's the same as any other guy that we have no update on.
I think I agree with all that. Anything else really worth talking about? I mean,
we have a back-to-back for the Lakers coming up, which I really thought LeBron might be out for tonight, and it just kind of sucks that he's not, because we would have had a really good Hawks bet if LeBron wasn't playing. But the Lakers play again tomorrow in Sacramento. The only way we get to bet on the Kings basically ever is if they're playing the Lakers. We have one this year. That was it, and we may get another one. So we're definitely on LeBron rest watch for tomorrow. The Bulls also play a back-to-back tomorrow against Utah, which is great. The Jazz get to play them on the second leg, which is awesome. I think we definitely want to watch, if Caruso plays tonight, could he be out tomorrow? Could LaVine be out tomorrow? The Bulls are traveling back home from Philly for tomorrow's game, so going to keep an eye on the Bulls. And then I think there's one other one. I'm missing one.
Bulls are an interesting team for trade season as well. I think they could blow it up also.
The Bulls are currently minus 300 or more to miss the playoffs already, though, so there isn't much upside.
I may not be able to take advantage of that belief.
Because they're already so unlikely. The market doesn't think they're getting in to begin with.
Even all the trade props that come up, they're almost always there's multiple Bulls involved.
The other thing with the Bulls though is their players aren't good. So who could they trade? They can't get that much worse. If they trade
have this weird team of guys that look good to the average fan that are just kind of mediocre actually. And,
if you take Zach LaVine off the Bulls for the year, their team rating is going to go down by about 1 point. It's just not it's not going to move the needle that much. They will be worse for sure.
Guy, he doesn't do anything special to me. I mean, he just has some flashy dunks every now and then. But
Kobe White is almost as good. He's worse,
and
but
he stinks.
Yeah, I mean, he's a negative 0.5 player rating. He's a little bit bad, and LaVine is a little bit good. And the difference, slightly below average to slightly above average, is just not a huge difference. So yeah, and Vucevic, if they started playing Drummond instead of Vucevic, the team would be the same. It would look different. The totals for games would be different. The game would appear different, but the team roughly would have the same quality overall.
See, I thought DeAndre Jordan was closer to, or I thought Drummond was closer to DeAndre Jordan.
No. Drummond is more like Montrezl Harrell. He can play.
Gotcha.
He's a legitimate backup center who has a very overrated starting center in front of him. So yeah, the Bulls are just not. Their whole team is average besides Caruso. If they trade him, that would be different. So we'll see. Yeah, I don't know if he's been in any rumors, but I would love to see Alex Caruso.
Whatever happened to Lonzo Ball? I thought he was on this team.
He just keeps getting setbacks in his recovery from his knee injury, so I don't think we're going to see him this year.
It's a bad beat.
Yeah, and he's probably the actual best player on the team.
That's wild.
Yeah, so that's the reason the Bulls are just not good. Is it's him? They need him.
Yeah. He's
and they're playing Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White with him out. Yeah, Lonzo's really good. There's one other back-to-back too. New Orleans is playing again tomorrow, so they're home Brooklyn tonight, and they're in Dallas tomorrow. That game, I think we're gonna do a show normal time tomorrow. I don't know if Mike G is around, or we could do one slightly later than normal. Are you around tomorrow morning?
I think so.
Okay, we'll call it.
I'm a game time decision.
We'll call it TBD. Well,
I'm bringing my stuff.
All right, we'll call it TBD for now.
I'm in a hotel, so it's always extra variables.
Gotcha.
We're checking out of the hotel that morning, and like we're gonna we gotta be somewhere in Miami by 12:30. So like, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Either way, there can be tweets about this, so you can just
Sure.
follow the Preaching Sense Twitter account and see my updates about the Pelicans.
Yes.
But the Pelicans are playing tomorrow in Dallas, and that game is going to be an interesting one to talk about.
That's a tough 2-game stretch for the Pelicans.
But also, like, Luka may not play tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, that.
Why would you say that?
Well, front end of a back-to-back, and he was both sick and injured last night.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Luka was like coughing on the sideline and also having his ankle looked at. And they are playing a back-to-back. So I'll say two
Why
things.
didn't we start with this? This should have been the lead story for
We don't have betting lines for
today.
it. We don't have betting lines for it.
But it still might be the most actionable thing to do right now is find a betting line for that.
Yeah, it's not going
to. I'm being sarcastic.
Sure.
Course,
the Pelicans are playing the Nets tonight. There will not be a betting line for Pelicans Mavericks for tomorrow until at least 7 p.m. Eastern.
Gotcha.
And I think it could be like we may not even see one until tomorrow morning. But Luka is dealing with some stuff. And also tomorrow's game is the front end of a back-to-back. So either he's going to sit against New Orleans, which I do think is closer to unlikely. Because that game really matters for the division. But then the next day, which is Sunday, they have their second leg of a back-to-back in Oklahoma City. He's not playing that game. Like I'm gonna call that now. If he plays against New Orleans, he's out for OKC. Like almost no matter what. So we'll see when betting lines actually appear for those things.
Here's my problem with this: is that one of his things is an illness. So like. You can't play through an illness to let it heal tomorrow. Right? That's not really how it works.
No, if it's just the ankle, if he's healed from being sick, but it's just the ankle, he'll play New Orleans and sit OKC.
Yeah, that was just.
But if he's sick, it actually could get inverted if he's sick. Because if you're sick,
it would be weird if he sat against the Pelicans and played against the Thunder. Yeah. I think that would be quite weird.
That's only going to happen if the illness
if he's actually
is the reason.
Sick, though. Yeah. Like that's the reality. So I agree with all that. Pelicans have a tough game tonight before a tough game tomorrow.
Yeah.
But Dallas will be on the front end of their back-to-back, and then they have what I would call the tough matchup in front and the cupcake matchup behind, where they're much more incentivized to try to play Luka on the front end and let him get the night off the following night. So that's on Saturday and Sunday, right?
Yeah, we've got a fun weekend coming up of Luka watch. Yeah, those are my favorite weekends.
All right. Well, maybe we can get some Giannis Q-Tag to join the fun, and maybe Jokic has earned a night off eventually. Who knows?
No. We have Denver bets tonight. Next time. Well, you know what? I mean, I'll throw this out there before we leave. Jokic is not listed here. Jokic is worth, and I actually tweeted this. If you, I don't know if you saw this one. Let me put this on screen. I did the top 5.
I try to interact with everything I see.
Okay, but it was in the middle of the news cycle. I just thought I would
Now I'm following so many beat reporters. I think I lose some of your stuff now.
Okay, this tweet.
This Law Murray's got to go.
Yeah, too many Clippers updates. All right, can you see that? Can you see this one on screen now?
All right. Yes. Oh man.
So I was ranking the players who we would project to move the point spread by the most, and Jokic is 12.5. So right now,
wow,
we have a 2.5 point edge on Denver. If for some reason, and I think there's like a 1 in 1,000. I think it's like
there's always a chance he could randomly.
I think
sit. Of course, I think it's 1% every day.
I think it's less than 1%. Let's call it 0.5%. There's a 1 in 200 chance Jokic is out tonight. If somehow we got that, we would have a 10-point edge on Cleveland, even though we currently have a 2.5 point edge on Denver. Because DeAndre Jordan is probably going to start if that happens. Yeah.
Yes,
it's like I don't think there will be another player in NBA history that will have a larger impact on the point spread than Jokic has this season. Like, this is the all-time. Like, the previous guy was probably Wilt Chamberlain, and now it's this. Because to have a backup this bad is almost
I
impossible.
bet Wilt Chamberlain's backup moved the point spread by more than 13 points if it had current analytics to determine it.
Yeah, that's it. That's the
drop
only.
off was probably 20 or something.
Yeah, that's why I'm picking him. He's the only guy there.
That's a good point.
Michael Jordan wasn't worth this much to the spread. There's no way.
I could probably agree with that quite a bit. But also, they were scoring like 75 points a game back then. So like 5 points was worth like 8 points of win percentage.
Okay, we could have that. Yeah, we can have that one with Mike G. You'd probably like that at some point. But currently, yeah, Jokic it's so much impact that no matter how much value we have on Denver, there's a bet the other way if he doesn't play. No matter how much. Even if we had a
that's why we mute Nikola Jovic from the Miami Heat, so that we don't accidentally see a Jokic and think it's Jovic and think it's Jokic and make the wrong decision. So stay ready out there, but make sure you're betting on the wrong guy or the right guy.
Yeah, don't bet on the wrong guy.
Don't bet on the wrong guy.
It's the one player. It's the player with the biggest point spread impact in NBA history has another player with an almost identical name that gets tweeted about every day by the team with the most frequent injury
by
reports.
The team that's always on the injury report.
Yeah, it's just like, could Jovic have just been on a different team and then it would be okay?
Yes.
But the Heat have to do the injury report every day, and he has to have it's the worst thing ever. It's really, this has been a great NBA season. Like, it's been a lot of fun. I know
it's a good troll.
But this is the worst troll ever.
Guy. I'm going to NBA Top Shot weekend this weekend at the Miami Heat, and I'm gonna. You know what? That's my goal. I want to beat this guy. I got to beat Jovic.
I think he's in the G League now, though, so you're not going to see
that increases my chances, right?
Are they there?
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you can just talk to Ira Winderman if you see him and ask him what the hell. Like, can you just stop putting his name there? Or
Sounds
Anthony
great.
Chang or any. If you see a Miami beat writer, please let me know how that goes.
Alrighty. Anything else on the docket? Any more trolling we want to get to? We talked about MVP a little bit. Did we want to circle back to that?
Yeah, why not? Why not? This is going to be a conversation about nothing, but let's have it for
that's why we're having it at the end of the show.
Yeah. Okay. You know, let me put this on a window where we can see it better. This is a little small, right? Yeah. Okay, hold on. Okay. Yeah, the player who benefited the most last night for MVP is Kevin Durant. Because our top guys didn't do that well. So Durant went from like plus 750 to plus 700. Even for him, like, it wasn't a significant night. Like, there wasn't a lot of impact. So the full breakdown about Luka potentially taking over the MVP race, it was contingent on them winning last night. And maybe this is just a point to end on here, but people do not seem to like these if-then scenarios that much, just as a general concept. Like, people want to know, what do I do, right? Like,
I get it.
And I actually, for whatever reason, derive a lot of pleasure and fun just from, like, making if-then scenarios. Of
what
like,
could happen? Yeah,
I like what could happen. Like, the multivariate problem of just, like, if this happens and then this happens, we're going to do this. If like A and B happen, it's this. If A and C happen, it's this. If A, B, and C all happen, then it's this. Like, I just really enjoy that.
Okay, so how are you using that here?
None of the things happen, so the solution is nothing. And I think people underappreciate how much of NBA gambling, or even just gambling in general, is like that, where you're going to make a bet if some set of things happen. And if they don't happen, you've spent a lot of time preparing to not bet. And that's
Yesterday was unique in that I had a full unit on Denver, and I was ready to unload like 3 units. And like, I ended up just like, to me, I put the guns away and didn't bet the other 2 units, right? Like, I was all ready. Like, I had money line pulled up. I had different sides. I was ready to go.
Yeah.
And then like, I was like, okay, whatever, stand pat. And like, I feel like every single day is stay ready, because you don't know what the opportunities are, and then react to the best opportunities available. Sometimes it's a lot of units. Sometimes you got to just put the guns away. But Yeah, I equate this a lot to like sniper shooting, right? Like we just wait until we have some insider trading information
Sure.
and just take advantage of something, right? So like sometimes there's opportunities, sometimes there's not.
Yeah, it's a good analogy because most people just sitting there looking through like the little lens to try to find
Yeah,
something, most people find that really, really boring.
it is really boring. It sucks.
Yeah.
I
I
hate
actually
wasting my
like it though.
day.
That was my point though. I actually
I
enjoy
get
it. Like
it's
the
oddly
days
satisfying.
there are days that I've spent where I've for 9 consecutive hours just logged in over and over and over again, and I'm going tab by tab by tab, log in, log in, log in, log in, just to make sure that all these different sites where I have Spencer Dinwiddie props and all these other bets related to Luka ready to go. And I literally have spent in a full 8 to 9 hour workday doing nothing but logging in, only to ultimately not bet on anything. Like I have done that. So you can win money betting without that for sure, but the highest EV things are generally going to be those things where you have to be like the sniper. Those are the
Yep,
highest EV things. Like the best bets I've
absolutely.
ever made are from that. It has worked before. Like it does work some of the time. So if you don't like doing that, the trade-off may not be worth it. Like if that's excruciating or you have other things to do, sitting around for those 8 or 9 hours, it just sucks. Like if it's taking away from what you could be doing with your life or you hate it, like you don't
Look,
have to do
I'll
that. But
speak
I
from my
actually
personal.
like doing it. It's just fun
I,
to do it.
I'll speak from my personal experience. I like doing it when I can do it, right?
Yeah,
So my day includes a lot of, take my kid to school in the morning, go pick her up in the afternoon, go run errands, go do this. Sometimes I got to do that, or, you know, take calls, do other things. And like, if I have an hour open, I'm going to give that hour open my full undivided attention
sure.
based on what the situation is. And for me personally, I fill in my available time and then try to catch whatever opportunities are available in that available time. And I
Yeah,
think that's the most plus EV thing you can do. Like I leave money on the table by not being on my computer all the time, but I also make sure my life doesn't fall apart because I'm at my computer
yeah.
all the time, right? So it's this like balance that has to be met.
Yeah, you're right. If you actually have responsibilities, it's a little bit different than if you don't. So if you don't have any, I mean, that's the benefit of there being 7 hour long podcasts now. You can just listen to something for the entire day, and that's like basically the amount of time it takes to bet. But yeah, like everyone's situation is different. So like we've said this a lot. Not everyone has to do what I do. Most people, their situation is probably a lot more like your situation, where they have some stuff that they need to be blocked off in the day, but then they have other parts of the day where they can wait. And that's why we continue to try to give like the two-part analysis of what to
Sure.
do of if you have time and if you don't have time. What is the best action? And honestly, like there's no other betting show that exists that is doing that. That is breaking it
I think
down
we have a
like
very
we're
unique product.
segmenting our audience based on how attentive they can be. That is unique to us for now. I mean, someone else may start doing it, but that's certainly unique here.
No arguments here.
Yeah.
Feel like we've gone on a couple of needed but somewhat off-topic tangents, but I think that was all really good content. I'm glad we did it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you feel strongly about today? Anything else you want to prep for tomorrow?
No, I think follow the Twitter account. I think we can, yeah,
Yep.
we can wrap
At
this up.
Preaching Sense is the
Yes.
Twitter account. My troll Twitter account is at Preaching Sense 2, the number 2, if you want a second opinion. It's mostly just retweeting Matt and commenting, but hey, that's adds value. So
Yep.
follow either one of those, and thanks for tuning in.